Oh, okay.
Actually, a half hour and you will watch.
There we go. There it goes. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. I appreciate that. I thought it was going to be like the Econ 101. You know, they always teach Econ 101 in undergraduate school at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why, but you're looking for something to fill in, and you go down to the class listing, and 8 o'clock, Econ 101, and nobody comes to class tonight. So thank you. There is a sign-in sheet in the back. If you didn't sign in, you want to get credit for the hours. I need to read the safety briefing, though, okay, in case we need to evacuate the building. Real simple. Out our door, out the back door, take a left, run like hell, okay? Just out the front doors, okay? Take a left outside. We'll go to the upper area of the parking lot, making room for emergency responder vehicles should they be screaming in as well. In case of severe weather, and in particular tornadic activity, which I hope we won't have, we will shelter in place under the tables. Thankfully, we're in a windowless conference room, and so that's good. I don't know how thick the outside walls are, and so sometimes those tornadoes are bringing debris that will go through the walls, but we'll hunker down in here. In case of an active shooter, we will secure the doorway, turn out the lights, and quietly shelter in place. Okay, make sure your phones are off, just in case that happens. We hope that doesn't, but nevertheless, it's 2024, and those things happen. In any case, we'll follow the directions of the hotel staff if they're around as well. This is finance. Okay, we're going to talk about finance principles at the Flotilla and division level. I'm Mark Deaver. I'm the DSO FN here in 082. Just some of my background. I've been the finance officer here in the district since 1989. I've also been the Flotilla staff officer for finance for my unit since 1980, and I work on the national staff. I'm part of the AUX-A, the Auxiliary Association group. That's the fiscal arm of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. Highest past offices, I was the district chief of staff in 87 and 88, and I was the aide to the National Commodore, actually 3 of them, from 91 through 96. Currently, I work for a company called Forvis Mazars, the 9th largest accounting firm in the country. I am not an accountant, okay? I worked for a bank consulting firm for 26 years, and then we were bought. So I am a bank consultant that works for an accounting firm. So I work for an accounting firm, but I'm not an accountant. It's one of those things. And then for 22 years, I worked at a commercial bank in Louisville, Kentucky. So that's my background. I've been doing some finance things as well. So I want to do a few things today. I've got 11 goals for us. The new SOP, the new Standard Operating Procedure, well, not new, but it was updated. The original came out in 22. They updated it this spring. They made some changes and modifications that in some cases help us, in other cases put more work on us as well. So we'll talk about the changes, the major differences between the Alpha group and the Bravo group. We'll talk about the role of the unit finance officers, okay, and the unit materials officers as well. We'll talk about establishing bank accounts, okay, whether to do it at a bank, a savings loan, or a credit union, and using the national EIN. Just want to talk a little bit about fraud, okay, not internal fraud, but external fraud, and how there are unscrupulous folks out there trying to steal our money, okay? And so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about expenditures, both authorized and non-authorized, and they've done a little relaxing on that as well with the updated SOP, and so that's good. We'll talk about income, and of course, everybody's favorite. We'll talk about the dues, the timing of the dues, and how that all flows from national to the district, to the divisions, to the flotillas, and we'll go through that as well. Obviously, we have to do financial reports, both monthly and quarterly and annually as well. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the change to Form 7025. They updated that earlier this year as well. Good news and bad news. The good news is it does the math for you. The bad news is you still got to put in the right numbers. You know, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. I mean, it's real simple. We'll talk about record retentions, and then of course there was a real emphasis on auditing, and they've added a new appendix that basically tells the audit committee, here's all the things you need to look at. And there's checklists and that. They really did a nice job putting all those materials together as well. So that should only take us about 6 hours. And I'm just kidding. I've got to get you out of here by 10 o'clock because we've got another group coming in as well. Well, it all started 2 years ago, actually 2.5 years ago, in February of 22, when the standard operating procedures came out, and that was the alpha copy of it, if you would. But that was updated then this spring on April the 8th. Actually, I was slated to give this presentation back in the spring, but then they had a mess up with the hotel. They changed the dates, and I had scheduled my work around not around the original date, and so I couldn't come. Well, that was advantageous because the week after we had the conference, they updated the program anyway. So it worked out for the best because I would have been talking about the old book anyway, and so that worked out all well. But that's it. It's really not that big. Okay, it's printed back in front. It's not that large, and it's right there. It's available at the Chief Director's website if you haven't already downloaded a copy of it as well. All sorts of references that go along with that, a couple of U.S. codes, but the biggie, of course, is our Bible, okay, the actual auxiliary manual itself, okay, 16790.1 Gulf, and then, of course, the Flotilla Procedures Manual as well that was just updated last year in the spring. So we refer to both of those. Again, 14 U.S. codes, Section 3901, Code of Federal Regulations at 33 CFR, Section 5, and then some other guidance that comes along in that, and so that's where we are looking for the references. The purpose of the manual, of course, or the purpose of the update was to update the 2022 version for the application of controls and the management of auxiliary finances and materials at district, division, and flotilla levels pursuant to the policies. And they've really added a real emphasis. The alpha copy was really just on the finance piece. It mentioned the materials and that, but we left poor Teresa out, and so now we've brought her under the fold, and we're requiring all sorts of things of the materials offices as well. And of course, elected and appointed leaders and program managers at all levels shall ensure adherence to the SOP by all those involved. Okay, DSO FNs and DSO MAs will maintain close liaison with the district legal officer. Obviously, we look to Jeff for guidance anytime any question comes up regarding that. Working with the XCOM, of course, and of course there's a chief financial officer at the national level as well, David Barber, and he helps us as well as we go through. Okay, so the Bravo version that came out this year supersedes the Alpha version. I mean, it's still out there, but we're going to refer to the new one. But permit units to authorize the disbursement of funds through the bill pay service of a bank or credit union, in addition to using paper checks. And so that's a change, okay? So you can use the bill pay service if your financial institution actually offers that service as well. So that was a change coming out of that. And then limits the authorization for taking any disbursement action to the finance officer and the unit elected leader, okay? We don't want other folks to be doing that. Okay. I see Patrick doing, oh, okay. I just, when I see you standing there, I always kind of wonder, Tommy?
It says the unit elected leader. Does that include flotilla commanders and vice commanders, or?
It would be.
Should that be plural, or?
In the absence, well, it says leader. I mean, in the absence of the flotilla commander, then the vice flotilla commander could. But if the flotilla commander is available, that's the one who should be making that decision. Just like the district commodore is the only one at the district level who authorizes expenditures. And I always know how to get a hold of the boss if we need to.
Bill pay services should be specifically.
The question for those of you online, the bill pay service would be if there would be an online application through the bank's website portal that would allow you to say, okay, debit my account and pay this bill, and pay this bill, and pay this bill. So if you wanted to.
You're not talking about Venmo.
No. In fact, Venmo is verboten. Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk about it. I've got a slide on that. Okay, there's only in terms of taking bill pay is for outbound monies. Okay, Venmo will be collecting. We can't use Venmo. There's 3 authorized: PayPal, Square, and then there's a new one, AffiniPay, on that. I've got a slide on it. I had never heard of it either. I had to look it up last night. I thought, who? So anyway, so we can do that now as well. So unit funds, our auxiliary unit funds, that's our money. Okay, it's non-appropriated, stemming from sources like dues, public education courses, and private contributions. Auxiliary unit materials are largely purchased by or donated or loaned to the unit. And in fact, when you look at the 7025, there's 3 sections on the back. Did you know there was a back side to the 7025? No, you laugh, but you'd be surprised how many people never turn that form over and say, wait a minute, there's stuff on the back I've got to fill out as well. And there's 3 sections. There's purchased, there's donated, and then there's loaned. And then we need to, obviously we need to track that as well. So the 2 references, the manual and the Flotilla Procedures Manual, don't provide a comprehensive national guidance for the management and control of auxiliary unit funds and materials. We've relied on limited guidance or developed our own guidelines to manage and control our finance and materials. This situation amplified the need to fortify financial and materials controls to minimize the risk of additional losses of these resources. Focus remains on the need to prevent unchecked and uncountable funds and materials access, as well as conflicts of interest, and to notably integrate 2-person integrity and other financial controls into auxiliary unit and fund management. And that's just good standard accounting practice. Dual control, separation of duties, that's the key, okay? Ask any auditor. Are there any auditors here in class? Any auditors? If you ask any auditor what's the #1 single most important control we could ever implement, and they'll always rattle off dual control, separation of duties. That's just the way we do it in business, and that's the way we need to do it here in the auxiliary as well. The SOOP, of course, is not a substitute for applicable legal requirements, nor is in itself a rule. It's intended to provide guidance for us, okay, and does not imply or impose legally binding requirements on any party outside of the Coast Guard. And when you read the SOOP, remember, it's written for the entire country, okay? Some of these things in here may seem extreme for us because we just don't do this we don't have these kinds of things. You go south, you go to Florida. I mean, you have flotillas that own buildings, okay? I mean, you have some flotillas that are larger than our district in terms of members and that. And so, you know, when they write this, they got to write it for the whole country. But just remember, a lot of this stuff may not even apply to us as well. So major changes between the Alpha from 2.5 years ago to the current one. Provisions regarding concurrent elected and appointed officers apply to the materials officers as well as the finance officers, okay? So when you're thinking about either going the elected route or the staff route, if you're going to go the staff route for FN and MA, you're not going to be able to go the elected route, okay? Or when you go the elected route, you're going to have to give up the FN or the MA positions. And we'll talk about that more in detail. Though immediate past officers are eligible to serve without a need for the waiver. There are additional details and clarity provided pertaining to the expectations about grant management in the interaction between us and AUX-A, the Coast Guard Auxiliary Association. So in terms of grants, okay, and donations, those all go through AUX-A. It'll get back to you, but it goes through AUX-A, okay? So there's a whole section on that. Additional details and clarity provided pertaining to the role of the district legal officer regarding the conduct of prohibition, source determinations, and contract approvals. Everything goes, if it's got contract in it, it's got to go through Jeff. Okay, it's just that simple. Okay, that's easy to remember. AffiniPay, that's the other one I was trying. Letter E there. AffiniPay is approved as the 3rd authorized system along with PayPal and Square. And Teresa just shifted to Square for this conference, and so that's really good. But AffiniPay, and like I said, Chaplain, I never heard of AffiniPay before until I read the document as well. The recording of deposits and expenditures should happen as they occur and not when the end of the month statement arrives, is emphasized, okay? I know in the perfect world we log everything at the time it happens, but sometimes we get behind, I understand that, but they're emphasizing that. Additional details and clarity are provided pertaining to authorized expenditures of the unit funds. They've done a little relaxation on some of that, and we'll go through that list as well. Additional details and clarity are provided pertaining to unit payment of auxiliary dues as an unauthorized expenditure. If the members aren't paying, the flotilla is not supposed to carry them, okay? And they just continue to stress that. Upon appointment, letter I, upon appointment of a succeeding finance or materials staff officer, the outgoing staff officer shall promptly deliver all the unit funds, books, and records to the succeeding staff officer. The elected leader shall effectuate this delivery if the outgoing staff officer is unavailable or unable to do so. Of course, most of the time we don't have intra changes in positions, but every once in a while somebody has to leave, and if it happens in between times, we just need to be sure that all those materials are passed over. There's extensive, this is letter J, extensive additional details and clarity provided pertaining to the finance and material reports and records. Okay, we'll talk about that. Extensive detail and clarity provided pertaining to the conduct of financial and material audits. There's a whole new appendix section on audits in that, and they've provided a detailed audit committee guide to help us with that as well in that process. And some new appendices are there with financial terms and transaction types. So they've really done a nice job with the rewrite on that. They got us, the alpha version came out in early 2022. They got the DSOs together about a month after that came out and told us what was in there. And so we had made some comments on this might be a little better than that. And so 2 years later, they incorporated some of our comments into that and updated the document. 7 sections to the book, 8 appendices. There's an organization section, of course, talking about the officers themselves. A whole chapter on budgets and financial planning, okay, how important that is. Bank accounts and fund management, membership transactions, enrollments, dues, disenrollments, okay. Unit financial records and reports, unit material reports and records. You've got your own chapter, Trees. Congratulations, good for you. A whole section on audit, a whole section on report routing, and then now the new appendices are Delta, Echo, and Foxtrot. Appendix G had always been there, but they added an audit committee guide. They added a whole appendix on financial terms. It's really a glossary. It's not just an acronym, and here it is, but it's a nice glossary. They did a good job on that, and then the various transaction types as well. So if you don't have it, like I say, it's available at the Chief Director's website. I mean, you can put that link that I had in there. Yeah, you could put that whole link if you want, but it's just easier to go to the Chief Director's website. On the left-hand side, you can key down, you go to SOPs, okay, Standard Operating Procedures, and then just search for this one in April. That's the easiest way to find it if you don't already have a copy of that as well. That's how you can get your hands on it easily as well, okay? Any questions so far? Yeah, it's on the banned list. Yeah, we cannot use Zelle. Cannot use Venmo, cannot use Zelle.
I don't understand why Zelle is on it because all it is electronic fund transfer from one bank to another that are on a national network.
Yeah.
It's actually a money laundering protection on that.
Yeah. I don't know why headquarters is not comfortable with us using Zelle, but they're not. I didn't ask the question. It's just the.
Oh, I sent the question in because I'm actually a banker and that's something I use. I work with my businesses to sell.
Yeah. I don't know. We'd have to ask the folks in BSX as to why they weren't comfortable with Zelle. For some reason, they like Square and yeah, I know.
So in the manual, is there like a semi-comprehensive list? Or is that...
Yeah, there's only 3.
Okay.
Yeah, it's PayPal, Square, and AffiniPay.
Okay, so if there's anything other than that, forget it.
You can't use it, yeah. I mean, you can use it for your own personal stuff, but you can't use it for the auxiliary.
You want to say more about private contributions? Are there any stipulations about private contributions? Anywhere.
The question, for those of you online, the question is, are there any stipulations on private contributions and from who we can accept them from? Those kinds of things need to go through legal just to be sure that everything's okay. If it's a certain dollar amount, it goes through the association so that they can get that. Because if they make it directly to the unit, they may not get the tax deduction that they're looking for. Whereas if they make it to auxiliary association, it will flow back to you. But going through the 501c, they can get that tax deductibility. And so that's the contributions need to go through aux.
I just noticed yesterday going through the association, there's a 5.85% that they take out. Do they keep that, or is that a fee? Do you have any idea what they do with it?
Is that was that regarding what Teresa's doing, or they should be?
The Ops Association, if you contribute to the association and then get them to reissue it back to you,
It's a
they're
pass-through.
keeping a pass-through percentage of the contribution to
Really?
the association.
It's the first time I've seen it, because I do
They've
quite
been
often.
doing that.
I was gonna say, it's been from the beginning.
Oh, is that right? Okay. I'm sorry. For those of you online, the desired way for contributions is to go through the association, but apparently they're taking their little cut
administrative
of that,
cost or whatever you
yeah,
wanna call it.
whatever they want to call it, yeah.
A part of what that is fees. The fees it takes to process that transaction as the ACH. So they're taking out that fees and then an additional cut for the service. That's what it is.
That's what I said,
Okay.
administrative fees.
Yeah, administrative fee, yeah.
Yeah, the charities are charging, will you pay this much extra to cover costs?
Right,
That's what they asked.
that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
They're making the $1,000 donation, and they're asking them, will you put in 1,100 or 1,200, whatever.
Whatever, yeah. Yeah, and we know who's doing that, so, yeah. As far as that goes. But yeah, still have them run it through the association so they can get they won't get the tax break if they just make the contribution directly to the unit. That's the purpose for going through the association. So, yeah, Tommy, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that they were taking their cut, so it's, yeah, okay.
Does it have to go through the association once it reaches a certain dollar amount?
I believe there is. The question was, doesn't it have to go through the association when it reaches a certain dollar amount? Yes, I'm sure it is, but I can't remember what the dollar is. It may be over 1,000, but don't quote me. I'd have to look it up to be sure. But there is a dollar amount above which it must go, but it's better that they all go through them for the tax deductibility piece on that as well. Unit officers then, okay. The Flotilla Procedures Manual actually provides the functional descriptions for the FN and the MA as well, okay? And then the standing rules for the districts also provide responsibilities for the FSO-FN, the DSO-FN, and the SO-FNs as well. If you're assuming the leadership role of your unit, the SOP asks you to appoint the unit finance officer within 30 days of assuming elected office, okay? Neither the FN staff officer nor any appointed assistant shall be familially related to the current elected leader or vice leader of their unit, nor any other unit within the chain of leadership and command. And that's just standard. You know, you don't have your spouse as your assistant, or you don't have your spouse running the flotilla and then you're the FSO-FN. It's just, you know, no family relationships there as well, okay? Now, if, as we were talking about earlier, okay, if you're the FN or the MA, you cannot serve in the elected leadership position, all right? And some of the SOFNs in the district in the past have looked at, you know, running for division commander and that. And I said, that's fine, and I wish you well. Now you're gonna have to give up your job and say, well, wait a minute, what? You know, you're gonna have to give up your finance job. And of course, this is the best job in the auxiliary.
I got a question on that. If you're the financial person for the flotilla, can you go for a higher level elected position? You gotta get rid of it no matter what.
Yeah, regardless of what you want to, regardless, if you're going the elected route, if you're going the blue A route, you're gonna have to give up the red A. And you'll have to leave the staff position while you're in that elected leadership. Now, you can always come back once you become the immediate past. Okay, let's say you're gonna run for, I hate to talk about this, but you know, if you can't find anybody else to run for flotilla commander, and you say, well, okay, I'll take it this year, then you'll give up the finance job for the year. But once you're no longer the flotilla commander, then you can go back and be the staff officer for finance. But both FN and MA can't hold elected offices and hold the staff office as well. Okay, and that's you know that's how they've got it set up. Okay, all right. The provision, again, doesn't affect elected office eligibility. That's right. And we talked about that. Oh, you can get a waiver. All right, if it's to the point where you know you've only got the only guy that can do the flotilla commander, or the flotilla commander can't find a finance officer and has to do it, the director can issue a waiver, but it shall not exceed more than 1 year and shall only be granted by DIROCS upon validation of the need by the district commodore as well. Okay, so temporary waivers can be granted, but we can't make it a permanent thing. And then please, anytime, and this doesn't apply just to finance, but to any of your staff officers that you're appointing, make sure that they can do it, okay? The additional burden on the auxiliary should be considered by the elected leadership and by the unit membership. It's wholly reasonable and prudent for an elected leader to review associated workloads and expectations within the finance staff officer candidates before making appointments in order to ensure a clear understanding of how the unit finances will be managed. And the same applies to the materials office as well. A lot of work in materials, a lot of work in finance. Okay, a lot of times it goes unknown because it's unseen. It's not readily evident to everybody on that. So but before you appoint anybody as a staff officer, just make sure that they have the capability to do that. Some of us still work for a living, and so you're balancing that. You're balancing that, that 4-pay job with the auxiliary responsibilities, and just make sure that they can do that as well. And of course, all of the pieces we just talked about on the finance side applies to the materials staff officer as well. An immediate past officer, though, is not an elected officer. Therefore, incumbents of immediate past are eligible to serve as the finance officer or the materials officer without a need for the waiver. And we talked about that as well. Okay. So, elected officers may not hold. We talked about that. Finance officers are the fiscal voice of the unit, keeping the bridge and members informed of the unit's fiscal activities. You're expected to know the rules, and you can assist elected leadership in following the fiscal rules. But more importantly, as the finance officer, you're protecting the fiscal resources of the unit. Same thing, you could take FN out of there, and you could put MA in both of those as well. And of course, we follow the chain of leadership and management. FSOFNs reach out to their SOFNs. The SOFNs reach out to me. I can reach out to my counterparts on the national level as well. It was interesting when we were when the first SOOP came out 2.5 years ago. We got all the DSOs together, and we were talking about it. We had a Zoom meeting, and then it's interesting how we were all doing things differently, and that when you look across the country, and that. So it was good it was good we had those discussions. I'm sorry we stopped having those, but it was good to get it together just to see how everybody approached things in a different way as well. Okay, what questions can I answer? Okay, we need an account somewhere. Okay, and when we see bank, we're talking about banks, savings associations, and credit unions as well. Don't forget your credit unions. Okay, the credit unions would like to have our money. Okay, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Gargantua, a lot of times, they're not interested in these small accounts. Okay, I hate to say it, but a lot of times your credit unions, they are welcoming of our business and our activities as well. But out of the auxiliary manual, all funds shall be promptly deposited to accounts containing the appropriate designation of the words U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. And we use, Teresa, here's the number you were looking for the other day, the EIN, the 52-1500576. That's the National Auxiliary EIN, and that can be used on all auxiliary accounts. Okay, we are authorized to use that. That was assigned by the IRS, and we are authorized to use that. Let me just say one. If any of you would like a copy, a PDF copy of that, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to share it with you. Okay, more than happy to share it with you as well. Okay, on that. All right. Now, just one thing. This has not come up for a while, but if you're able to put it into an interest-bearing account, and you haven't spelled out United States, okay, you may get what's called a B notice from the IRS that says the name and TIN don't match, okay, and they're actually going to want you to do backup withholding. We did that. This has been probably 20 years now. We got one on the district account, and that all I had to do was get them to change the style of the account to United States as opposed to U.S., and it worked out. I haven't heard anybody having a problem with that. Just know that something may pop up, because, of course, when the IRS does the name and TIN matching, when the 1099 goes in, our EIN application actually spelled out United States. This was back in the 80s when they actually applied for that. Now, even though we are a government entity, okay, and there's a document in the SOOP that shows that, a lot of times, because the financial institutions don't understand us, okay, they will look on us as either a nonprofit organization or an actual business, okay? And so under what's called the beneficial ownership rules, okay, they may be asking you for what they call control prong information, the name of the person who has significant authority to control, manage, or direct, all right? Now, just remember, under control prong, it can either be, when you take it to the business side, it can either be the CEO or the CFO, or within the business organization. Well, remember, as finance officer, you're in effect the CFO of the unit, okay? And so if they ask you to sign one, okay, it's okay. You can go ahead and do that, because what they're trying to do is that it's called in the banking world, it's called CDD, right? The customer due diligence, right? where they're identifying and verifying the identity of beneficial owners of the legal entity, the humans who own or control the legal entities. Now, they know that nobody owns us, but somebody's in charge at the unit, okay? So it's either the elected leader or the finance officer in that. So they may ask you for that. One came in the mail on the district account years ago when this first came out. And I thought about it for a second. I said, well, okay, I could take an hour and I can go down to the branch and I can explain to the branch manager that I've taught this topic for 25 years and I kind of know what I'm talking about and we're exempt. And then I realized I was a control prong, and so I could just sign the form. That's all they wanted. They wanted a form signed. I signed it, put it in the postage paid envelope, and I mailed it back to them, and I never heard another thing. So you may get asked, okay, we don't, it does not apply to us, but they don't understand us and that. And just note that whole beneficial ownership thing may change next year as Treasury may make some changes on that as we go forward. But it'll be a form that looks like this that you just sign, and off you go, okay? Yes?
Sorry, just
In the past, as the DCOs have changed, I've often tried to get you, the DCO or whatever, we go to the bank, and I put the new DCO on. I know in the flotillas, we usually have as signers or signatures, the FSO, FEN, and the FC.
FC, yeah,
So both are
Right.
signatures
Yeah.
on the bank account.
right.
And then we do that here with the district with my account. So is it both that are required, or is it just is that a separate thing? The signature eligibility is different than just the ownership?
Yes,
initiative?
yeah, it's just that that's then this control prong, the signatories are different
You
on
still
that.
have to do the finance and the elected.
Yeah, you should.
On the account.
Right. If you want to put the vice on there as well, you can. That's really up to you on the account. Just in case something happens to the finance officer, you don't want that account locked up to where nobody can get any money out of it at all, okay? But normally it's just the two, but you can have three on there. You can have as many as you want. Now, you can put dual signature required, but the banks ain't looking at it. I mean, I'll just tell you.
There's only certain accounts that they'll follow that with, but you can put a second line on there, but they don't care.
Yeah,
There's just certain type of accounts that they will require that.
yeah. But I mean, you put as many.
I think on flotillas, we typically do that so that we have a dual
Yeah.
type situation, but I know. with
The
us,
banks
I
aren't
can't
the
get-
banks aren't policing that.
I can't get Chris and I together.
Yeah. Well, the banks aren't the banks won't police that for you. So I mean, you
But
could
there is that distinction I wanted to make, that there's a
Right.
difference in signature, who's.
versus
filed
the
that
control. Yeah, versus
versus
the control. If they ask you for the control, and they may not. They may not. I just wanted to point out the fact that it could be that. Okay. But they don't know who we are. If you're already a customer or a member at an institution, start there. Okay. They may, because they know you already, they may welcome the additional account. Okay. If they ask for documentation, and they probably will. Okay. There's a commandant's policy statement regarding the auxiliary. Okay. You could provide that as a copy. There's also, coming out of, and it's in the back of the SOOP, there's the EIN letter from the IRS that validates that 52 number, that 52-1500576. And then there's a copy of the IRS confirmation talking about the fact that we are a government entity. Now, we are not a tax-exempt organization. We're actually part of the U.S. government in that. And you could provide all that documentation to the new accounts personnel, and that would hopefully align their fears as to what are you weird people doing here, opening an account as well. I found that sometimes giving a copy of the AUX manual and pages 1 through 3 that gives a nice history of the auxiliary can do that as well. And there's a listing of some other things that you can take to the new accounts people as well. A copy of the unit meeting minutes that reflect the election of the new leadership and their full titles. A copy of the unit leader's memorandum that appoints the finance officer. A copy of the officer report from AUX dated 2 that provides the full name, title, address, and phone number on new bank signature cards. A copy of the EIN and the IRS letters, and a copy of the statutes as well. If they needed all of that, you could take that along as well to establish the financial account. But every commandant updates the auxiliary policy statement it's pretty much, the language pretty much hasn't changed, it's just the signatory and that, okay? And just a quick sidebar, isn't it just really neat that not only is the commandant, but NACO-elect are both females? And that was pretty cool at NACON this year as well, okay? We are recognized by the IRS as a government entity. We've never been a not-for-profit or a charitable organization. So no auxiliarist or any element or unit of the auxiliary should ever represent to anyone that we are a non-for-profit or charitable entity. Any unit that has obtained a tax-exempt certificate from any state government or local municipality based on representations that we are not a not-for-profit or a charitable entity must have that certificate revoked, and if local law permits, ask it to be reissued based on the status as a government entity. And Jeff can help you with that as well. Now that's not sales tax exemption. That's a different animal. Okay, that's not sales tax exempt. That's the tax exempt from the state taxes and that. Okay, so we are not. We are a government entity. It's right there in that document, but people don't understand that as well. And there's a copy of that, and that's in your SOOP. And then there's the EIN number. See, they spelled out United States, okay? United States with that. So sometimes that's where that B notice comes in. Remember, all auxiliary monies must be deposited into a federally insured institution. If it's a bank or a savings association, you're looking for that sign, the FDIC, insured up to $250,000. And then if it's a credit union, you're looking for the NCUA sign. It's still the same $250,000 insurance limit as well. I'm sure your flotillas have more than that. We have to worry about the federal insurance on that as well. Okay, so we'll only use federally insured. We talked about that. Okay, the unit must use the services of a bank or credit union that provides the original canceled check with the monthly bank statement. This was written by non-bankers. I don't know of any financial institution that's returning the physical canceled check in the periodic statements. It just doesn't have it. We're not exchanging checks anymore. We're exchanging images. But the image copy of the check, okay? Oh, or an image copy must be available from the online. If you have a policy, if the institution has a policy that the image copy is only available online for a limited amount of time, we must then, of course, make sure we're downloading that, okay, and storing those copies with the monthly statements, okay? Banks and credit unions that provide only the number of cleared checks shall not be used. Okay, so you need to be able to get that. You need to be able to get that image, and that's so important because of all the check washing and all the check theft that's going on that we'll talk about in just a couple minutes as well. With the written consent of the unit leader, the unit financial staff officer may close a bank account and transfer funds to another federally insured institution, and of course, all accounts must be reconciled on a monthly basis. Okay. Sometimes that reconciliation is easy, okay? In my flotilla, we might write 5 checks a year, okay? So the reconciliation doesn't take a long time, all right? So it just depends on the activity in that. Two-person integrity, okay? Disbursements and fund transfers must be approved by the unit elected leader or the vice elected leader in the absence, somebody was asking about that earlier, in the absence of the unit elected leader before the transaction is executed, either approved by email or physically initialing of the invoice is acceptable, okay? So the Commodore-elect sitting in the back, if he wants me to pay a bill, he will email me. And he will say, pay this bill, pay this bill, pay this bill. And I won't pay anything at the district level without his authorization, except for national dues. And he doesn't have a choice. He's got to pay the national dues. That's the way it is, okay? Sorry, sir, I apologize, but that's the way it is, okay? They're not impressed with your stars. We're going to pay dues. That's the way it is, okay? Counter checks are prohibited, absolutely, and voided checks will immediately be defaced by writing void properly across the check itself, okay? Checks must also have original signatures or bank control authorization for bill payments if you use that bill payment process, okay? They must never be pre-signed nor carry stamped or electronic signatures. Signatories must not be spouses or members of the same household, and the same should not sign checks made payable to themselves, their spouse, or any member of their household. Situations requiring reimbursement of pre-approved expenses to a unit elected leader must be approved by the other unit elected leader not receiving payment prior to disbursement. If both unit elected leaders concurrently require reimbursement, then approval must be provided by the elected leader at the next higher organizational level. And checks should never be made payable to cash, okay? We should never be in a situation where we're writing a check to cash on that, okay? And that's just standard business practice on that as well. All unit funds must only be invested in savings accounts, CDs, or money markets insured by the FDIC or NCUA. All such invested unit funds must be readily available without loss of principal, okay? I'm sorry, but you can invest unit funds in Bitcoin, okay? I realize that there's some pressure to do that, but no, let's not do that, okay? That's gambling with your members' money. Let's not do that. And because of the statutes, PE fees have to be tracked separately, okay? PE course fees must be tracked separately. You cannot use those funds for social events, subsidizing membership dues, or purchasing gifts to individual members as well, okay? We can use it to buy more PE materials, buy equipment and things like that, but you can't have a party with the PE revenue, okay? Now, we don't have to have a separate account for it, but we have to track it separately, okay, at the unit level. Bonding is up to you, okay? All unit custodians, normally the unit elected leaders and the unit finance staff officer, that's optional, okay? If funds in the account are in excess of $5,000, then bonding of the unit's account custodians are strongly recommended, but it's not mandated, it's not required, okay? I'm bonded at the district level on that, but it's your call at the unit levels as well. And on this one, be careful, okay? We're all using that same 52 number, that 52-1500576, that EIN. Just when opening the bank account, ensure the account does not create a conflict with another auxiliary unit using the same bank, okay? The district monies are at one of the large super regional banks, and I was in the branch working with one of the folks, and he was trying to pull up our accounts, and he scanned the EIN on that, and there's all sorts of units that have, and then we've all got that same account on there. So it took him a while just to find our account and that, okay? So units encountering any resistance to use of the authorized number, and that's used to select others with which to do business or seek assistance for the legal officer to resolve the conflict, okay? And then, of course, we're not allowed or authorized to communicate with the IRS directly without getting permission from the chain of leadership. We would have no reason to actually talk to the IRS. We try to avoid the IRS at all costs whenever possible, okay, with that as well. Now, that's the auxiliary. AUX-A, the Coast Guard Auxiliary Association, Inc., that is the 501c tax-exempt fiscal arm of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. It's a non-for-profit corporation, incorporated in the District of Columbia, granted tax-exempt status under 501c3. No member of the auxiliary is authorized to open accounts or transact business of any kind in the name of the association. They have their own group over there that does that as well, okay? So that's AUX-A. What questions can I answer on accounts? What questions can I answer on accounts? Oh, we're doing fine. Okay, let's spend a second talking about fraud. And I'm not talking internal fraud here, okay? I'm not talking about problems with our own folks, though there is the risk, albeit slight, there is the risk that you could have internal fraud. But let's talk about external fraud for just a second, okay? And why it's so important that we're looking at the disbursements, we're looking at the transactions as they're coming back through. We're writing the checks, and then they're coming back through. Is everything still copacetic in that? Because there's a ton of fraud. Last year, our friends at the Federal Trade Commission, okay, they collect consumer reports. They collect consumer complaints regarding fraud. It's called and they house that in what's called Sentinel. In this case, the Consumer Sentinel Network. Last year, 1 year alone, 5.4 million reports were received from consumers. The top three categories: identity theft, imposter scams, and then problems with credit bureaus and the like. Of the 5.4, half dealt with fraud. And of the half, 1/4 of those, there was a dollar loss associated with that, totaling $10 billion. 1 year, $10 billion in loss, okay? The top 5 frauds: imposter scams, online shopping and negative reviews, prize, sweepstakes and lotteries, investments, and business and job opportunities. Those are the top 5 frauds that are out there as well. In May, the FTC put out data talking about companies most frequently impersonated by scammers. On the top of the list, it's Best Buy with their Geek Squad. Amazon and PayPal are the most frequently impersonated scammers. that steal money using gift cards most often, or most often in person. Scammers that steal money using gift cards most often ask for Apple and Target cards as well, okay? About 52,000 reports about scammers impersonating Best Buy, followed by about 34,000 reports about scammers impersonating Amazon, and PayPal was the third most impersonated company with about 10,000 reports. When it comes to amount lost, though, consumers reported losing far more money to scammers impersonating Microsoft or Publishers Clearinghouse. I didn't even know they still existed. I'm sorry, I never sent my envelope back in. I never bought a magazine. They finally just gave up on me. But apparently they're still out there. And the scammers are using that. That made almost $50 million in losses to Publishers Clearinghouse scams and that. But you see that, you know, they're the top 10 on that. But the dollars on Microsoft and Publishers Clearinghouse as well. So how can you avoid scams? Never click on links or respond to unexpected messages. If you think the story might be legit, contact the company or the agency using a different source, a trusted source that you know, not using the number that's in the message and that. Say, hey, we've detected a problem, call us. No. Use a number that you know is legitimate. Don't believe anyone who says you need to buy gift cards, use a Bitcoin ATM, or move money to protect it or fix a problem. Real businesses and government agencies will never do that. Anyone who asks is a scammer. And then slow down. The scammers want to rush you. So stop and check it out. Before you do anything else, talk to someone you trust. Anyone who's rushing you is more than likely a scammer. Okay? It's more than.
Give you something, but you've got to pay for it.
Oh yeah. And you've won the Canadian lottery. I've won the Canadian lottery.
But in order to get it, we need you to transfer.
We have taxes or fees that you have to. Oh yeah. But people fall for it. Tommy?
Was that previous slide in the SOP?
No. This is.
Can I get a picture of that?
Sure. You want that? You want?
We'll send you the slides, sir.
Yeah. Also, yeah.
Oh,
Just let me know. Yeah. Just.
I got it, no problem.
My email's in there. If you want to just email me, I can attach it and send it to you. Be more than happy to do that. Okay. More than happy to do that. Okay. Be real careful. All right. Forever and ever and ever, we were always focused on debit fraud, where a fraudster would try and take money out of our account. Now they're also focused on credit push fraud, where they trick us into authorizing the debit to our account and sending money out. Okay? It's BEC fraud, business email compromise fraud. Okay? You're contacted by what you think is a trusted individual, okay, or a trusted company. But the fraudsters have scammed the email address, okay, and they ask you to wire funds, or, well, we don't do any wire transfers to that, but to actually pay money. Just be careful with that. But then the vendor impersonation fraud, be real careful on this, okay. If for whatever reason the unit owes money to someone on a normal basis, and then all of a sudden they contact you and say, well, we've changed our bank account, okay. Start sending the money here. Validate that separately, okay? So many businesses fall victim to this. They just say, oh, okay, well, and they just route the payment directly to the fraudster as well. And so it's credit push fraud. You're going to see more and more on this credit push fraud as well. And then, of course, check fraud, and it's mail theft related check fraud. And it's exploded, Tommy. It just has. They're stealing. Just like it said, they're stealing the mail. Okay, the fraudsters steal the mail. Okay, it's mail theft related check fraud is a fraudulent negotiation of checks stolen from the U.S. mail. It's that simple. Okay, criminals may steal the different types of checks and attempt to use them for their own benefits, but they love business checks because they're the bigger checks, and they can wash those checks easily. One of my attendees in one of my public seminars shared with us last year that common nail polish remover is a very good solvent to use for check washing. I did not ask him how he knew that, but I appreciated him sharing that little detail with us in class and that. But once stolen, there are several ways to use the checks, including altering the payees or altering the amounts, using the stolen checks to create counterfeit checks, fraudulently signing the check and then selling the check, or as identifying information on the dark web marketplaces or encrypted social media platforms. Generally, mail theft, check fraud is a combination of two crimes, mail theft and check fraud. But they're literally stealing the mail, okay? So if you're paying bills by writing checks, don't drop them in the blue box. Take them into the post office, okay? They are physically accosting the mail carriers, not characters. Some of the postal carriers are characters, but nevertheless, no, I'm sorry. I had the same mail carrier for 25 years, and then he retired. I don't think I've had the same person delivering mail ever since. Okay, but Robert was really. But they're actually physically stealing those. They call them the arrow keys. It's the magic key that opens the blue box that you're putting the mail in. Okay.
So yeah, on that, there was actually a notice that came out in Pittsburgh with our AMC, that there's people going around stealing the arrow keys. They've actually started catching them. They're going from city to city. They're watching people put stuff in the box, and early in the morning, they're going in, opening, taking everything out of the box, getting all the checks, and having people go in, deposit them. And then they're withdrawing the funds immediately. And then they're doing it for a couple months in that city, and they move to another city.
Yeah.
So I know the post office is working on trying to get things changed on those boxes, but it's bad, it's a lot going on, and they can't catch it, so.
Yeah, for those of you online, the comment was talking about in Pittsburgh how there's been a rash of these mail theft from the blue boxes and that.
It's just not Pittsburgh, it's been throughout most of the major cities.
Yeah, but yeah, the Postal Service was doing the warning in Pittsburgh. So if you're mailing a check in payment, walk it into the post office. Okay, walk it into the post office. Now they did make a change. My post office on my side of town, it's in one of these great big outdoor malls, you know, where you can't go from store to store inside, but no, it's not a strip mall. Strip mall, you know, you think marijuana shop and that. No, these are high-end stores. It's just you can't go from store to store inside and that. Well, the post office has got their branch in there, and out there by the U.S. highway, they've got an island. They got the 3 blue boxes with their drive up. You could drive up and just throw it without even getting out of the car. Well, the opening on those blue boxes was like that thick. I mean, you could 20, 25, 30 envelopes in that. Well, these guys can just go in and they don't even have to steal the arrow key in that case. They just go in and fish it out with a little pole, with a little grabber and that, and steal the checks that way. Well, post office, they changed those boxes. Now, the opening's like that. You're lucky to be able to get one envelope in. And you can hear the rollers when you push the envelope. You can hear the rollers in there. So I think it's just a one-way. I think if somebody was able to snake something through there, it's not going to come back out. And that. So the post office knows they got a problem and they're dealing with it. But we got to be really careful with that. Stolen checks are most frequently altered before negotiation. Okay. Some perpetrators don't even alter the information. They simply sign the back and attempt to negotiate it, though that occurs less frequently. Okay. Other times they'll open a new account that with the institution that had either the same name as the intended recipient or nearly identical name in that. So we got to be careful. They use unsophisticated methodology. They use 3 types of methodology. The unsophisticated, they simply endorse the check without modifying. They alter the dollar amount or payee, or third-party payments with no check modifications. They make it appear as the intended payee signed it over to them and attempted to negotiate the check. Moderately sophisticated, check washing, we talked about that. Selling information online, using compromised information to create counterfeit, and then stealing newly ordered checks from the mail. Be careful when you get that new checkbook order in as well. And then, of course, sophisticated methodology, they open new accounts, or the mail theft fraud is part of a larger scam, okay, mostly romance and employment. And then, okay, there is some insider. There have been some USPS employees, not a lot, but some that have been caught on that as well. So just be careful how you process your checks, okay? My mother, God rest her soul, I mean, not God rest her, God love her, she's still alive, thankfully, but she still writes checks. You know, I keep trying to get her to, for standard stuff, to do ACH debit. Oh, no, I don't want them debiting my account. They'd have my account number, and I can't get her to realize that when you write a check, you're giving them your account number, but, she still wants to write checks. So I take it into the post office for her and that. And
Mama was that way she wouldn't use her credit card. She'd write the check because she didn't want anybody seeing her credit card number. You can't convince them. Yeah, for those of you online, the other comment was the same thing on credit cards as well. Anybody who lived through the Depression, Yes.
they don't trust anything
Right.
except the cash and that, and so yeah, it's there. But just careful. So account controls, all right. Bank statements, Flotilla monthly bank statements shall be reviewed by the Flotilla commander and the FSOFN to verify that all transactions are in order. Division and district bank statements shall be similarly reviewed by the DCDR and SOFN and by the DCO and the DSOFN on a quarterly basis for the periods ending March, June, September, and December. Okay. Of course, the boss knows he can have whatever information he wants. Okay. If he wants a weekly summary, I will give him a weekly summary. I'll give him whatever he wants as we go forward as well. Each party may perform such review by accessing the unit's bank account through the website, through the institution's website, and attesting each upon completion that they've done that. The website must require username and password for access. Secondary PIN or passcode requirements are strongly encouraged. It's 2024. Single-factor authentication is not going to get it. Okay, we need multi-factor with layered security. It's just the way it has to be. Okay. And each individual user should have their own password or PIN. Do not be sharing passwords and PINs and that, okay? Teresa, what you were talking about earlier, the elected leader and the finance officer will be designated joint signatories, okay? Not two signatures required, but they can sign on the account, okay? And that should be completed within the first 4 weeks of each individual term of office as well. All joint owners shall establish text notification service for institutions, so we immediately receive text notification of any account withdrawal or deposit. Okay, it's really important. For whatever reason, the bank that the district has likes to send those notifications at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why, but it wakes me up, but that's okay. That way I know the check is clearing and posting, and they not only tell me that they not only tell me that it's happening, but they give me the check number and the dollar amount, and I go, yeah, I wrote that check, so yes, I know that. It's okay. The IROCs may waive this requirement only upon receipt of request by the unit FN, and that, okay, upon receipt of any text notification, we need to work together to notify the bank that there is a problem if indeed we really didn't authorize that withdrawal as well, okay? And that just, again, that's just standard operating procedures on that as well. Yeah, and notify the financial institution. Now, here's the electronic funds transfer. Okay, and here it is. Only PayPal, Square, and AffiniPay accounts are authorized for use solely to accept payments to the unit. Okay. Outbound electronic transfer of funds. The auxiliary unit should only electronically transfer funds if such funds are deposited directly into an insured institution in its own name. Okay, we should not be doing electronic, other than the bill payment system. We should not be doing like funds transfers, like wire transfers and that, unless it's our account to our account. Now, on receiving money, we can only use PayPal, Square, or AffiniPay. Okay, all right. When you set it up, again, use the EIN, but right there it says specifically Zelle and Venmo are not authorized. For whatever reason, Zelle and Venmo are not authorized for use, okay? If you need to use an alternative method, it must be fully justified through the chain of leadership of management and the district legal officer as well, okay? I don't think you're going to get that approval unless there's just a really, really, really interesting case for that as well. AffiniPay, okay, it's a market leader. This is from their website, okay? Like I say, I've never heard of it until I looked at the new SOOP. But they're a market leader in practice management software and online payments for professional serving legal, accounting, architectural, engineering, and construction firms. It's been recognized as one of Inc.'s 5,000 fastest growing companies for 12 years in a row. Each brand leads the market it serves with solutions, and you can read that as well. So that's the third group. In addition to PayPal and Square, AffiniPay is the third one that we can use as well. Credit and debit cards, credit cards account and debit cards accounts in the name of the unit, no, we still can't do those. Okay, those are not allowed. They're not authorized to create accounts for, possess, or use credit or debit cards. Okay, it's not a requirement, but to keep our finance duties or materials duties separate from other auxiliary and personal matters, we're encouraged to establish a distinct email address solely for our staff officer functions, including electronic funds management. Okay. Due to account limitations, management concerns comparable security capabilities in conventional email accounts, Coast Guard CGAuxNet.us email accounts will not be issued for finance or materials purposes in that. Okay, and so yeah, that makes a lot of sense just to keep the finance stuff as well. So we need to work with all the elected leaders need to work with their finance officers to establish appropriate information flow to ensure the integrity of accounts and transactions as well. What question? Oh, Teresa? Yeah.
Back one more. Oh, right there, number 4. The distinct email for the finance officer, does that need to be separate distinct for the MA?
That,
So I would need FN and MA?
it's recommended. It's not required. It's just recommended. Okay. It's just recommended. Just to keep it all separate. Okay. I kind of like it. Kind of keep it all separate. I don't know how many email addresses Google will let you have, or Gmail will let you have, but it's probably unlimited. Oh, it's not unlimited? Okay. I see a head shaking no.
I have like 50.
Like 50, okay. That's a little too many. Tommy?
Bottom where it says,
I just wanna know how you keep it straight.
Protocol for each one.
the CGOXNet US email will not be issued for this purpose. You already have one of those accounts. You shouldn't use that account. Is that what it's saying?
Yeah, basically, if you have a CGOXNet account, don't use that for your finance activities. Keep it separate. Yeah, if you're lucky enough to have one of
And
those,
Teresa's question, does that apply to MA as well?
it would apply to the MAs as well.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay, so a scenario that's come up in my flotilla multiple times is someone gets sick, we send them flowers, usually
so the folks online can hear you.
okay, so a typical scenario is someone in our flotilla gets ill, we send them flowers, usually our FSO financial person pays out of their own pocket because we don't have a debit card or anything to go through Florifax or FTD or whoever. So what would be the best way to handle something like that?
In the perfect world, the best way to handle that would be have the flotilla commander or someone else in the flotilla actually make the purchase, and that way then the FSOFN could reimburse without writing the check to themselves.
Okay, so that was the conflict that we were in.
Right. Yeah, you're gonna end up with that. So in the 40 years I've done it at the flotilla level, and the 30 years I've done it at the district, I've never written a check to myself. I just don't. I make the boss spend the money, and then I reimburse him, okay, or her, as the case may be, because we have had female DCOs in the past as well. But the better way is have another member actually do the debit to their credit card, and then the FN can just reimburse. That's the cleanest way to do that. And that is one of the authorized expenditures that we're going to talk about in just a second as well. Okay? All right. So let's talk about disbursement. Thank you for the nice segue. I'll pay you later. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about disbursements. Okay. Disbursement of funds must always be used to further the general purpose of the auxiliary. In general, funds should not be accumulated without some definitive goal in mind. Unit funds may only be spent or committed with the concurrence of the appropriate majority of the voting members of the unit unless specific provisions authorizing the expenditure or commitment are made in the standing rules. Okay, and that's why we do a budget, so that normal, I say day-to-day, but normal activities that are going to occur from a bill paying or a disbursement standpoint that come up during the year, we can just do. It's already been approved by either the board at the division level, the board at the district level, or the members of the flotilla, okay, have already approved that, and so it can just be done when that comes in. Stuff that was unplanned must then go back to the members or the board, depending upon which level you're talking about, before it can be authorized. Unit monies are there to spend, to use and use to support the unit and the members in the organization. Keeping tens of thousands of dollars in the account does nothing to maintain or grow the organization. Growing bank accounts is not the goal. With few exceptions, we can spend funds however we vote to spend, so long as such supports the unit, ideally through the budgeting process. But remember, PE course fees may not be used for social activities. We have to keep that and track that separately. I'm going to say that 3 more times. I'm sorry, but they just keep hammering that in every chapter of the book. They keep talking about that as well. Yes, sir.
Okay, on the public education fee, the monies that you collect for that, you can use it for refreshments if you're teaching a course. If you're going to provide.
Because it's part,
It's
of the
part
training
of the-
course. That's
Exactly.
not social.
Right.
That's part of training the course, yes.
Unit picnic.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't have a hamburger feast with that for the unit and that. Yeah, absolutely. That'd be part of the course expense. Yes, yes. Chaplain.
Because it's training.
Oh, the question is why. I don't know why they have to be segregated. I suspect it's something in the code, actually.
I would presume it's, we're asking money from the public, we're being held accountable for how we're using that public money. We're not just getting money from the public for us to go have a party.
Yeah, Tree. For those of you online, the response was, we think it's because, we're collecting money from the public, and we just can't have a private party with public monies and that. So they
Can you go into this in more detail?
yeah, I'll talk about that. Okay, but they keep saying that. So common examples of authorized expenditures. Now this is not an exhaustive list, but it's in the SOOP. But materials needed to teach an authorized boating safety class to the public, including books, materials, materials to construct a training aid, projector, screen, laptop, course completion certificate, card maker, custodial fees, meeting room craft refreshments. There you go. There's your coffee, tea. Okay, keep it clean. All right. Let's not have a beer party with. No wonder hundreds of thousands of people come to your public education classes. You give them a moonshine or whatever. Yeah. Authorized flags, pennants, and patrol signs. Authorized auxiliary uniform insignia on a one-time, first-time basis for an individual. The auxiliaries that effectively comprise a member enrollment kit. Okay, those are. The following items are so authorized: new member shoulder boards, collar devices, ball cap, including auxiliary unit ball cap, name tag, and so on equivalents. And I think that's a change from the original one. So they've kind of expanded that, because we were having a discussion last night. Somebody was saying, well, we like to buy member collar devices for the new members and that, but the old one said we couldn't do that. Well, now they're saying that, one time, first time basis for an individual that's enrolling, okay? Design and development of authorized auxiliary office and unit emblems, okay? Design, development, and procurement of authorized auxiliary office and unit coins. The coins must not be personalized by the individual's name displayed upon them. Okay, so for example, Flotilla Commander John Smith's name does not appear on the coin. Materials and services needed for the conduct of unit conferences, meetings, ceremonial events like change of watch, training events, boat rendezvous, and public outreach. This includes room rentals, copier rentals, audiovisual equipment rentals, refreshment and meals. Materials, refreshment, meals, and services needed for unit-sponsored fellowship, including involving Coast Guard members and their families, are authorized, provided no revenue from PE units, and the sale of PE materials is applied for this purpose. Again, keeping that all separate, and we can't just have a party with that. Materials and equipment needed to meet auxiliary-specific facility acceptance criteria, including surface patrol placards, public advisory signs, auxiliary labeled life jackets, personal located beacons, and other materials and equipment to support the unit's operations and programs.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
I read that, I understand it, I agree with it. And I may have misunderstood a portion of, if a facility is gonna stand up, would that allow for the unit, point number 8, would that allow the unit to purchase the patrol banners and everything to stand up the facility? Because we at one point were told unit funds could not be used to pay for standing up a facility.
Well, and the question for those of you online, the question is, can number 8, point number 8 there, if they're standing up a facility, could we buy patrol placards? Well, and again, I'm not, we'd have to ask Jeff to be sure, but the way I read that, a literal interpretation of that is, yes, we could.
And that would go on the materials report as part of the unit's.
Yes, yes.
Tangible
And it would be returned to the comment, for those of you online, it would go on the material equipment report on the back side of the 7025, okay, on the inventory part. And it would be returned at the time, assuming they survived. If the facility held onto it for 10 years, they're going to get beat up in that. I mean, at some point, we would have to write them off. But
It's not the property of the facility owner.
no, it's the property of the unit. Property of the unit, yes, absolutely. Okay. Authorized award and recognition items, including replacement ribbons, medals, pins, devices, and insignia, certificate frames and holders, presentation items like Auxiliaries of the Year plaque, Program Achievement plaque, Auxiliary Retirement gift, unit coffee mug, and associated printing and engraving. Materials and services needed for conduct of the unit administrative duties, training and functions, including Zoom licenses, paper, laptop computers, printing and publishing, training materials needed by the detachments and the AUP units, and postal services. And then gift presentation to Coast Guard mutual assistant, provided, again, no revenue derived from PE unit efforts is applied for this purpose as well. Gift presentation to a Coast Guard unit or Coast Guard individuals authorized in reference H, provided no revenue, again, from PE. In general, gifts to a Coast Guard unit must not exceed $200 in value and must be non-cash in nature. Gifts to a Coast Guard individual must be under $20 per occasion, non-cash in nature, and not cumulatively exceed $50 per calendar year. Expressions of joy and sorrow specifically regarding unit members, including condolence cards to immediate family of deceased, flowers for deceased unit member funerals, donations to an identified cause as requested by the member's immediate family in lieu of flowers, get well cards for injured, sick, or hospital unit members. Similar expressions of joy and sorrow may also be provided in cases in which the subject of the expression is a Coast Guard military or Coast Guard civilian member as well. Okay? Unfortunately, our members pass away at times. Okay, or their spouses or partners pass away, and all that's allowed as well, and always has been, and that's been. Obviously, we can pay dues. Thank you. Travel for unit elected leader, appointed staff, or member to attend a conference or special training event, or assistance with a portion of the travel costs, or approved by unit members or board as appropriate. Such travel must be clearly official in nature and contribute to improvement in the conduct of auxiliary business mission, performance, or professional development. And gift presentation to another auxiliary unit impacted by a natural disaster to assist with the unit's recovery. I think that's a new one. I had not seen that before. I put that together. Okay. Now, common examples of unauthorized expenditures. Presentation items for a non-retirement eligible member's disenrollment from the auxiliary. Okay. If you're kicking him out, all right, don't give him a gift. Okay, or at least don't pay with funds. Any gifts to members in recognition of their service as elected or appointed officer other than what we already talked about. Revenue derived from PE unit efforts and the sale of PE materials will not be used. Again, they keep hammering on that. Tommy, I suspect that's in the code somewhere. That must be in the legal code for that. Because they keep saying it over and over and over again. Okay, I bet it's in the statute. And any gifts or donations to a non-Coast Guard or non-Coast Guard auxiliary entity not specifically authorized as well. Dues obligations of any unit member, prospective unit member, regardless of their personal situation, member status, activity level, or amount due. This is meant to preclude a flotilla from using its funds to cover the financial obligation at any organizational level for any member who is unable or unwilling or unaware enough to pay it. It's not meant to preclude a flotilla from using its funds to pay its dues as billed, but we're not going to carry any members. Okay, or we're not supposed to be carrying any members, all right? Now, that said, you and I both know that if you don't get them, if they're leaving and you don't get them disenrolled before the end of the year, you're going to get billed, okay? And I mean, they can write that all along, but that's what's going to happen because they're going to bill us, okay? And then, of course, any auxiliary uniform items other than those listed in that section 3 above, as well as unauthorized, okay? And here it comes again. Special attention must be made to ensure funds collected from PE course revenues from PE course fees are tracked separately and used appropriately. Okay, you don't have to have a separate bank account, but you can't use it for social events, subsidizing member dues, or purchasing gifts to individual members. Okay, and remember, as instructors, we're volunteers. Okay, so we don't get compensated for our services. Okay, adding surcharges to the cost of PE materials in addition to administrative fees to support auxiliary programs. Okay. That's okay. They should be added to the administrative fee and not as separately advertised. A small general increase to the course materials cost is the preferred method of supporting other programs. And then, of course, once again, they bring back, this comes right out of the auxiliary manual as well. Okay. What questions can I answer on that? Okay, income. At the Flotilla level, income is mainly derived from dues, PE course revenue, and possible contributions. Okay. Division level, income comes primarily from dues, possible PE revenue if you do a division-wide PE class, and possible gifts or contributions. At the district level, income is mainly derived from dues and Teresa's activities at the ship store. Okay, we really love you supporting the ship store. General funds should not be accumulated without some definitive goal. We've talked about that as well. We should strive to maintain a balanced budget in which income equals expenditures other than projects for which reserves have been set aside. To ensure solvency, if an expense exceeds its allocated budget amount, then the overall budget must be revised to reflect appropriate reprogramming funds necessary to maintain the balanced budget. And we do that at the district level as well if something comes up. Last year, we bought a new trailer for the materials center, okay? That was not in the approved budget for 2023. That was approved in the fall of 2022, and so the board had a special vote on the recommendation to do that. That's allowed, okay? But they did that with Will. And there it is. There's those fees again, okay? Balanced budget, we talked about that. Grants and gifts, okay? Procedures for solicitation and gifts can be found in Section 8 of the Auxiliary Manual, and of course, work with Jeff, the DSO LP, on that. Numerous sources for which grants are available, okay? But again, work with the legal officer. AUX-A has extensive organic grant writing experience and skills among its staff, provides a readily available resource for us. Please consult them in developing any grant application. Grant agreements and contracts, regardless of the unit level, must be submitted to the DSO LP for review and approval prior to signing. Prior to communicating approval, the DSO LP shall first provide a copy of the grant application to the Commodore and the director, notify them of the intent to approve and receive acknowledgement of receipt, okay? So run everything through the LP. There's a whole section on that, on the LP as well, okay? The auxiliary EIN shall be used whenever, okay? And again, the Coast Guard Auxiliary Association, they are the fiscal arm, okay? And that, okay? Or AUX-A, as we refer to them. So basically, run it through the legal officer. He's more than willing to help you with those as well, okay? What questions can I answer on that? Dues. We operate on a calendar year basis for finances and most importantly, the collection of dues. Members appearing on the rolls of the unit at year end are accounted for and billed for annual dues. If they're on your roll 12/31, you're going to get billed. Okay, that's just the way it is. Sorry about that, but that's just the way it is. Members added during the first 3 quarters of the year are billed at a pro rata dues rate based on the quarter added to the rolls in AP status. Okay. If they enroll in the first quarter, they pay 75%. If they're enrolled in the second quarter, they pay 50%. If they're enrolled in the third quarter, they pay 25% of the annual dues. Okay. If they're enrolled in the fourth quarter, they get a free ride for that quarter, but they should be paying next year's dues already. Okay. National bills the district bills the divisions bill the flotillas, and the flotillas bill the individual members, with each level adding its own amount to the subsequent invoice. And district dues and ADR have not been raised in decades, okay? We charge $6 a year at the district level for dues, okay? And Teresa's going, well, why do I pay $60 to the flotilla? Well, because National takes its piece, Division takes its piece, and the flotilla takes its piece as well, okay? So, we bill 30, National takes 24, we keep 6. In the first quarter, okay, National gets 18, ADR keeps 450. In the second quarter, National gets 12, we keep 3, we bill you 15. In the third quarter, National gets 6, we get $1.50, and I bill you $7.50 in that. Okay, and so that'll be the spread for next year as well. Okay, National's not raising its dues next year. We're not raising our dues. Whether your division raises dues, it's up to you. It's up to your division board. Whether the flotilla raises dues, it's up to you. It's up to you. Okay.
The average dues are for
the question for the onlines, what's the average dues for flotilla? It varies. I was talking to a gentleman last night, and they charge like $30, 35, maybe $35 a year. My flotilla charges $60. Okay, so it just depends. Of course, my division's taking 15. My division's charging 15, and then we had 15 on top of that. So it just depends on the units. What do y'all, what 50? Okay, you got 50. 47. Okay. 42? Duncan, $5. $5 over what the division is. Over what the division is and the district and the national are charging, so it's $5. So join Duncan's flotilla. Okay, he's giving you a deal. Okay.
Transfer forms today.
Just get him in before 12/31. Okay.
Now the finance officer bring me a check.
Yeah, absolutely. Tommy, what is your Flotilla?
38.
30, okay, 38, see. So
Pretty close.
it's all, yeah, it's all across the board. It's all across the board. And so now you're asking yourself, okay, what is my Flotilla charging? Yes, okay. So, yeah, it's
Has
interesting.
anyone had any experience with, we've been considering increasing, but we've been concerned about the folks who are not active, but they do pay their dues. Would that scare them off?
With the scale, yeah. For the online, the concern, of course, is they've been thinking about raising the dues, but for the dues paying member only, the only thing the member's doing is paying dues, you know, will that scare them off? You know, if it's just a small incremental increase, and this is just personal experience, what we do is if, you know, National raises their dues, okay, or like last year, our division raised the dues, and so we said, well, okay, well, we're gonna raise the Flotilla dues along with that. So it's just, you know, we can blame the guy upstream as we didn't do it. No, it's just, you know.
Maybe if it is an inactive person, maybe you want to scare them off.
Well, in my role as finance officer, no. As long as they're writing a check, as far as I'm concerned, they're active. I mean, you know, and that's it. You know, now it hurts you with what Duncan was talking about the other night. It hurts you with the other numbers in that. But you know, from a financial standpoint, if they're adding to the coffers, I love them. Okay, I mean that's I love them. Okay, they're active as far as I mean, they had to write that check, and so they're active as far as I'm concerned.
Some flotillas need that number.
You know, you're right.
We'll have
You're right.
membership.
Well, I mean, you know, when I signed up, you know, there were 40,000 of us, and now we're down to less than 20. Okay, so we've culled the inactive from the rolls, but that's been reflected in the monetary amount as well, because all those people were paying dues before. Okay, so we went through that piece. So to make all this work, of course, all right. You know, the divisions, you know, they get the bill from me. They add their piece and bill the flotillas, and the flotillas then add their piece and bill the members. So to make all this work, then you should have already billed your flotillas for next year. Okay, if you have not done your 2025 dues billings to your flotillas, you're already behind the 8 ball. Okay, because it takes time to get the members. If we don't want them to leave, but if they're going to leave, okay, then go now. Okay, so we can get you off before 12/31. I hate to be just negative about that, but if they're there on 12/31, they're going to pay. Teresa?
We have to do the 3 announcements, correct?
Yeah.
3 requests for dues,
Yeah.
requests for dues,
That's
requests
for
for
dues, yeah. Pay us, pay us, pay us.
Send them a letter. No, you can do phone calls.
Phone calls,
Emails.
Three contacts.
Yeah.
No registered letter required anymore. I always do that as my third one.
That's the third
Yeah, that's what I
final.
was- the
If
last
you don't,
report.
this is what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't get to that. Yeah, the suggestion, put it in the agenda to talk about the due status, yes. Yeah. Yeah. And who's not. But hopefully we can keep them in, okay? Hopefully we keep them in. Okay, so you need to bill now, all right? If you haven't, you need to be down because they got to be out by 12/31, okay? And this is on every bill you'll get from me. You've got to be sure, not just send the stuff to Anita, but you got to follow it through. The FSOFN, the FC, the FSOIS, somebody's got to be watching to make sure they get pulled out. And if December 15th there, if you sent that disenrollment in or that retirement in 2 months ago and it hasn't been processed, follow up on it, okay? There was a situation earlier this year where the Commodore came to me and there were 3 people that were supposed to be disenrolled and they weren't. Well, this was end of March. This was 3 months after year end. Nobody had been watching aux data, and that you've got to watch aux data because until they're gone from aux data, they're still here. They're still here. Okay, so
Who is aux data, and how do I get that person's phone number? And just a question. Go ahead.
yeah, that's all right. I understand. We're all frustrated. Okay, we've never been happy with any of those systems. Okay. I mean, I remember the old Augsmith days, so, you know, okay, so there we go. All right, so you should have billed, okay, the second billing should go out so that we can do the third billing if they're going to leave, okay? We need to do that early in October so we can process those things through as we go through so that we have a clean we have a clean sheet on December 31st, and so the dues, okay? Any failure of the member to pay the obligation shall result in disenrollment or retirement if they qualify for retirement in that, okay? It's really important that you guys pay, though, okay? Because failure to fulfill your financial obligation could result in the suspension of your vote on the appropriate board until the financial obligation is paid as well. Thankfully, we don't run into that very often. What questions can I answer on that?
Could I ask a question?
Yes, sir, please.
Before we get too far.
Okay.
So when, something you mentioned about the unit money can be used for the different things. Can you use, like flotilla money to send or help send, like the flotilla commander to DTRAIN?
Yes. Yes.
So you could pay the mileage or you
Right.
could
Pay the gas. You can pay
ride?
if you wanted to. If you've got the funds, coming, like coming to the conference
Yes.
to participate in a training session. If the flotilla wanted to do that, and you had the funds, yes, you could do that.
I've got 2 people here doing that right now. They have to fill out a form, they have to be DQ'd, they have to be the first time, they have to fill out what they're gonna do, they have to sign up. Once they do that, we pay their travel, we pay their lodging, food's on them, we pay for, registration.
Yeah. Yeah, that's,
And we've got 2 people here that accepted that. They said,
Outstanding.
that is outstanding. That's why 24 is good.
You can use
Except for PE.
No, you can't use PE, because this is a training.
Because that's
course.
training. That's training.
Training, yes.
So you can use it all.
Yeah. So as long as it's a training event, it can't be
It-
your
you-
unit.
you can't- you can't-
fellowship.
That's social.
Okay, you can't pay for fun night
Right, you can't pay for
with
fun
PE
night.
monies.
Yeah, you can't pay for fun night, Friday night.
Yeah.
That's official.
That's official.
Because we're building PE funds and I don't know where to spend it.
Okay.
There you go. Augment your
See?
patrol, augment your training.
See, this 2 hours has been well worth your time, Tommy. See, there you go. Yeah.
You can send it to me.
CA programs, that's right.
Okay. All right. The DCDR, Division Board, are entitled to and should receive information on the division's fiscal activities at each meeting. The members of the flotilla are entitled to and should receive financial information on the flotilla's fiscal activities at each meeting. Okay. The DCDR or flotilla commander shall inform the finance officer what financial information they needed and what frequency. I let the Commodore tell me what he wants, and I provide it to him. Okay. We are making a financial report at each regular meeting. Okay. In the new, are there any SOI? Oh, there she is. There is a spot in the new 7,000, the Form 7,000 that there's a spot for financial report.
I don't know whether we're supposed to send the statement, or just, our group just
Does a report?
just does a report.
Yeah.
Our division officer has a fabulous quarterly report, and the cover sheet is what I'm gonna attach to that.
Yeah, I can't find anything. Our division, SOFN, was asking us to attach the bank statement each quarter. I don't see where that's required anywhere. That's not prohibited, but I don't see that. That's a must. But you can if that's easier for you.
And Glenda said if you are sending anything like that, make sure the numbers, not the amounts, but the bank's numbers and all of that stuff scratched out.
Bank account value.
Oh, the account numbers. I don't know of any bank that's putting account numbers on statements anymore.
Whatever, anything that was identifiable.
It's truncated.
Flotilla.
Those banks, if it's a print statement, they will have the account routing numbers, because that's how they're verifying their customers right now.
Oh, well, not the one we use.
So currently, we summarize the financial report at the end of monthly. Is that sufficient?
Yeah, for the online, the question was, in one flotilla unit, they're just summarizing the financials, and that's the information that goes into the secretary's, in the Form 7,000, that's fine. Yeah, it doesn't say it has to be, that doesn't say the statement has to accompany it. Chaplain?
Does it have to be written, or can it just be a verbal?
Written,
Gotta submit the written.
written.
I'm talking about
The monthly
meetings.
meetings. They would prefer it written so they can attach it, right, Roseanne?
Yeah, because we don't have the written report from, our secretary writes it in the.
Oh, just writes it in? Okay, so you've got the DSOSR with us right here, so, yeah.
Still in the minutes, so it would be in his, it would be in his report.
Yeah.
A written report to your flotilla members is the recommended way to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But I think it's kind of like you said, what the flotilla commander.
Wants.
commander,
Yeah, what the flotilla
DCO,
commander,
What they
yeah.
request is what we give them.
Yeah, yeah.
And
The
then on
finance
the
officer
reporting,
standing up saying we are fiscally
Sound, that's right.
non.
Solvent.
solvent.
We are solvent.
Solvent.
Yes.
In my monthly DSO staff meeting, my report takes 10 seconds. If I talk slowly, the district is solvent. And that's all they need to know. Yep, absolutely.
That's all the DSOs need to know.
That's all the DSOs need to know, yeah. That's all the DSOs need. The DCO gets it all, but the DSOs only need to know that.
Remember to keep finance officers straight, and this happened in our division, or in our district. The finance officer said they were stable, and they were paying their own bills out of the flotilla account, and never was accountable for what was there.
And-
I've always,
Finance statements and a written report at the finance flotilla level will keep you honest.
Yeah, for the online, the comment was, there was a situation where there was an FSOFN who was paying his own bills out of the flotilla. That's where the audit comes in. That's why it's so important for the audit committee and the.
Then, whether it's a verbal or written report, I've always had, and I thought it was written, and we hadn't got to where I could see if it was or not, have them available upon inspection. So if we get to a meeting and we say, this is what our balance is, and someone says, okay, let me see the back, then we've gotta have it there.
Right.
to
And for the online, the comment is that at the flotilla level, you can say, here's what our balance, but if any of the members wants to say, well, show me, then we need the supporting documentation.
So whether we
Absolutely.
submit it every meeting.
Right.
We may or
But
may
we
not
have it,
to, but it has
but
to be available.
we have it available, exactly. You're gonna keep all your records, based on the standard time frame. Upon completion of the current fiscal year, they'll be trained by the originating auxiliary unit for a period no less than 7 years, after which they may be destroyed. Longer retention is necessary if deemed necessary. Paper reports may be converted to electronic form. That's the easiest way to do that. That one's for the director. And this is the new piece, okay? The 7025s must be converted to a portable document format and placed in the Coast Guard Auxiliary Document Management System by the DCO's designated representative. Guess who the DCO's designated representative is? It's me, okay? I'm the guy that's stuck with that, all right? Excuse me, I'm the guy that gets to do that, okay? And this is the change, okay? We are now going to, we're going to do the normal flow. 7025 will go from the flotilla to the division, to the DCAPs, to the DCO. But then we'll add the extra step. It'll come to me, and I'll actually enter them into the document management system. Now, this is we just had a meeting on this last month, okay? So this is brand new, okay? So none of your folks have to do any of this. But they do want last year's information as the base starting point. So I'm going to be asking every unit to send me their year-end 2023 7025 that they've already done, okay? They did that back in the spring, or they were supposed to. They're supposed to do that back in the spring, and a copy of the year-end bank statement, and I'll get it submitted into the document management system. Tommy?
Every unit being each individual flotilla?
Yep. Each individual flotilla and the division, and then the district will do the same thing as well.
So we got 56 flotillas.
Yeah, we sure do. Yep.
They all come directly to you in
Yep.
PDF format.
Yes.
So is our FSO, whatever he is he gonna be notified of this?
Yes, I'll be sending.
He'll respond to me, maybe he'll respond to you.
Okay. Yeah.
And you only need the year-end financial, you don't need to know what 23 started, you just need year-end.
They want that to start as the baseline. But I need the 7025s front and back, and then I need the year-end bank statement, evidencing the balance. Okay. So I'll send all this out. I wanted to let you know what's coming.
Well, I
Another
think
question,
I hope you have better luck than we're having.
Okay.
So you're gonna send it to the,
I will send it to my counterparts are the SOFNs, and And the SOFNs will work with the flotillas to get that in.
Flotilla commander, anybody else within the flotilla gonna get this notification besides ours?
Well, whoever your SOFN wants to work with, I would suggest that they copy the flotilla commanders. Yes.
But you're not copying, you're just sending to SOFE.
Yeah, because that's my,
Right, that's your direct.
that's my chain.
But you're not copying the division commander.
I'll copy the division commander.
Right. Okay.
Just like I do,
Division commander
when I do the
and
dues
the-
invoices, I send it to the SOFN with a copy to the DCDR. I'll do the same thing with this communique.
So the DCPR and the SO will get it from Mark.
Yeah, we'll get it from me. Okay? And so we'll do that. Now, I've already, for Division 6, Steve's already got it all, okay? Because he gets all of that every year. And so he has it. He can send it right to me. I suspect we'll have to do some searching for other folks. And I don't know how many people, how many of your units actually attached the year-end bank statement to the 7025? Okay, interesting. Okay. Okay.
December 31st to show what your balance was.
It needs to match the year-end bank statement needs to match the ending balance on the 7025. Okay. All right. All units shall maintain well-organized reporting records and accounting systems. These records include the budgets, reconciled bank statements and other statements, receipts, vouchers and authorization, deposit slips and records, general ledgers. You can read that. It's all in the book as well. Again, if someone leaves, all right, we'll have to do a special report. Okay, that the annual year-end 7025 is prepared in January, and it flows as it always has. That hasn't changed. An elected leader may direct submission of a 7025 from a subordinate unit in their chain of leadership management for any cause at any time during the year. Okay, unit elected leaders must notify and obtain approval from the DCO, and the DCO must also obtain concurrence from the director prior to issuing approval for such. Okay, and then of course we talked about the monthly reports that the FNs are going to make. The unit finance officer shall maintain the financial records and reports and records for the unit. Okay, shall be kept in secure and in the custody of the finance officer when not. At no time shall the unit reports fall out of custody of the finance officer. And the director only wants electronic stuff. Okay. All units should maintain. Now, same thing applies then on the material side, Trees. Okay, and we can go through that same. We can go through that same litany as well. So all the time retention requirements for materials are the same as on the finance side. Okay. Budgeting in that, preparing an annual budget allows for the payment of routine bills that have been convened, either the flotilla membership or the division board to discuss routine disbursements. Okay. Extraordinary non-budget items will still need to go to the division board or flotilla membership to be approved before the expenditure is made. Okay. I would give the flotilla commander or the DCDR a contingency, like $100. Just okay. We need to buy something. We need to buy some flowers. If you're not budgeting flowers or a funeral item in that, I just put a little plug in there so they don't have to get everybody together because Bob died and we need to send flowers.
Do you do that above the standing policy of your flotilla commander has an allotment of X amount?
Well, that's what I call contingency. It would be a contingency fund. That's what I call that as well. Okay, but budgeting is required at all levels. Okay, at all levels.
Question on that, like that set aside money, $100, is that $100 per transaction or $100
No.
for the year?
$100 for the year.
For the year.
$100 for the year. Yeah. Talked about that. Annual budgets, budget process. I'm running. We got another class coming in 15 minutes. I want to get through this. Sorry about that. But we're all doing budgeting and that. The 7025. Okay. It's all about accountability. And that's the key. It's all about accountability. It just shows how well you did. Okay. It's not a gotcha, except in the case that Duncan brought up, and it would be a gotcha. And that when we do the reporting and the auditing for that as well. I'm going to redo this form, but this is the cover sheet that goes on your 7025 when you send it up. Just kind of lets you know when things are due, but I'm going to redo that form and get that out, okay? The current form was just updated, okay? It's just updated in March, so make sure you're using the new form. It's a national form used by all the units. You don't have to budget in the categories there, but if you dump a bunch of stuff into other, they want you to attach additional sheets just to explain that. The math is really not complicated. You start with what you had, you add the receipts, you take away the disbursements, it should be leave the ending balance, which should be supported by the bank statements as well. And the nice thing about the March 2024 is that once you put these in there, it'll add it up for you, okay? But as I mentioned earlier, if this is wrong, then this will be wrong as well, okay?
Starting balance.
Yeah, that's why, if any of these numbers over here are wrong, then this, yeah, it'll add up, but it won't add up correctly, okay? And there's instructions for the form as well. But remember, turn it over, okay? Turn it over, okay? Remember, finance officer, if you're staying, and most of us do, okay? You're signing both here and here, okay? If it's the first year of the DCDRs, okay, they're signing here and here, assuming they get elected the second year, okay? And I didn't understand that until a couple of years ago. Because I always said, well, I'm not going anywhere. But they said, yeah, I'm actually I only serve for a year, okay? And so we sign both places. So the FC would be the approver and the relieving officer, as well as the finance is the outgoing and incoming as well, okay? You can do a simple chart of accounts. You can use any of the various programs that are out there as well, but it doesn't have to be very sophisticated. You just do it in Excel if you don't have a whole lot of things to worry about. But don't forget to turn it over, okay? You've got the equipment and the property purchased. You got the facilities, equipment, inventory, and property donated or gifted. And then you have property on loan or lease. And again, the MA is going to do the same thing as well, okay? Questions on that?
Can you go back to the last slide real quick?
This one?
Yeah, when something is on loan and it's on that 70-25 for, say, last year, and then all of a sudden we give it back, there's nowhere in here to tell us that we give it back.
No, I would just keep.
Disappears.
I would just keep a record. I would take it off the form, but I would keep a record that we had.
Was there not someplace at one time that it said when we acquired it, when we just got rid of it? I think it never liked it.
It might have. For the online folks, there was the question was, wasn't there in the past a returned date on this loan stuff? There may have been in the past. I don't remember.
Thank you.
I never turned it over. I hate to admit it. I never turned it over.
Does PPE for boat crew have to be listed on this?
No, that's ours.
No. Yeah, that's separate. Duncan?
Remember, a staff officer is assigned for, and term is based on the elected officer who assigned him. Therefore, you sign the left side because it's been relieved, and you sign the right side because you've been reappointed.
Right, exactly. So they sign.
I always look at it as I prepared it and I'm accepting it.
Yeah, but yes, the Duncan's point's right. Okay, you serve at the tour of the person who appointed you. Okay, and so you're at the end, assuming it's your end, you're going to be the outgoing officer, and then if you're reappointed, then you're the incoming officer, and so you're signing in both cases.
And that signature right there is for both finance and material, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because on the bottom of the materials one, you got the same thing. Okay, you've got this. The only problem with this, the only problem with the TV is that the pointer doesn't show up on the I got you can see I got a red pointer, but the screen sucks it away. Okay, and takes it away. Okay, record retention. Okay, we talked about that, and all this stuff needs to be retained for the proper period of time. We talked about when these things are prepared. Okay, who's doing this? And you can read all that as you go through that. Rendering the reports, available to the membership. Audits. Remember, there's a whole appendix just on audits, okay, and the steps for the audit committee as well. But the national standing rules require the annual financial audits to be done in connection with creating the form and that. The DCDR, the flotilla commander, should appoint an audit committee consisting of members of the division board or members of the flotilla who can review the records and receipts. Should they fail to establish the audit committee, the financial officer and the materials officer, okay, because all this applies to both of us, should gently remind them that they need to do that, okay? And then again, once again, here's that PE money again. Like I say, Tommy, there's got to be something in that, something in the statute that requires that. If you're assuming an elected position, you need to be cognizant of the status of your unit's finances before accepting responsibilities, okay? Because you're going to sign that form as the incoming officer as well, okay? Appendix D, of course, has, again, the whole outline on the audits as well. The audit committee, we talked about that. You're doing transactional testing, okay? If you're looking through checks, and again, this is where it gets a little, you know, this is where this thing is written for the whole country, okay? Last year in my flotilla, I wrote 3 checks, okay? So the audit took about 3 minutes, okay? Because they looked at each, well, good, thank you, and then we're, you know, and they looked at the 12 monthly statements, and so, you know, you writing more than 200 checks a year, you've got quite an operation going on, and that. So again, it's just, you know, you don't have to look at every one, but in our case we do, because we writ so few. Yes, we wrote so few, and that. But it's just, you know, it's just you want to get a sample size to satisfy yourself that things are working as they should. A materials audit again, boom, same thing. Okay, before you assume command, if you would, or assume the leadership status of your specific office, you need to be cognizant of the status of the materials in the unit as well. Okay, and there'll be a materials audit committee that should be established as well. And there's all sorts of sections in that with that as we go. There's an audit committee guide. That's Appendix Delta in that. Okay. Talks about who should be part of, why the audit committee is there, to make sure that the reports are free of any material misstatement, that the standing rules are being followed, and that district policies and procedures are also being followed as well. The financial materials audit should be completed as quickly as possible after December 31st in order to be finalized in sufficient time to submit the financial and materials report to the unit elected leader, and then it follows up through the flow, okay? And you could, again, you can read through all that. The audit committee shall never be comprised of a single member. And it should consist of at least 3 members, including the chair, but also have 2 other members if time and circumstance prevent more. You may have one committee to perform both the financial and materials audit, or you can have 2 separate, it's up to you. Eligible committee members include any incoming unit elected leader, the incoming unit staff officer, okay, not the incumbent, but the incoming unit MA officer, okay, any member aware of most, if not all, unit activities that occur during the year, and any member interested in the unit's accounting or bookkeeping, okay. Ineligible committee members, the unit elected leaders, because they're the ones approving the incumbents, okay, and members who are not involved in any significant disbursements, and any family member, of course, of those could not serve on the committee as well. Again, when to audit, as soon as possible, prior to any change in the unit elected leader, prior to any change in the finance or material staff officer, and then 30 days of direction by such unit leader if they've done so, that there was that one piece in there that allowed them to do that as well, okay? Materials, that goes through what materials to have together for both the financial and the materials audit. Copies of last year's report, of course, that gives you where the starting spot, and of course the last year's audit committee report as well. And then they have a nice audit checklist they put together as well. I mean, it just goes through. It helps the audit committee just, okay, here's what we need to do as we go through these various things. And then once the audit committee is conducted, okay, they'll do one of 2 reports, okay. We've looked at it and that. We have some findings and some recommendations. Or if it's clean, okay, we've looked at it, and in our opinion, there's really nothing that we need to do. And then they sign off on it, and they submit it as well. Where does it go? That's a good question.
It gets presented at the flotilla level.
Okay, it's presented at the flotilla level,
It's just presented that it's been done.
It's been done, yeah.
The audit committee signs the year-end 7025.
Yeah, 7025.
Audit committee.
Right, and then we would retain it with the 70-25 that we retain. I don't see that, I haven't seen anything that says this needs to go with the 70-25 that's going to the cloud. No, no.
This would be done too. It just says it has to be presented to the Flotilla.
Yeah,
As a report.
that it was done, yeah, yeah. Okay. If the unit fails to comply, okay, blah, 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 the DCO then may direct the financial audit. And of course, the DCO has the authority to call for an audit at any time. I did a screenshot of the first page of that new Appendix E, all the different financial terms in that. They did a nice job. They really did a nice job putting that information together as well. Okay. What questions can I answer? What questions can I answer? Yes, sir.
I just have one question. Why would you carry something that's loaned to you on your books?
The question is, why would we carry something that's loaned to us on our books? Because they told us, I'm sorry, because they told us to. Just so that we don't lose it. I'm sorry, online people. Didn't mean to drop you on that. Yeah, we just don't want to lose track of it. We just don't want to lose track of it. If you'd like a copy of that, just email me. Okay? Just email me. There's my email address. Okay? Just email me. I'll be more than happy to send you the PDF of these slides and that you could use for training in that. I'm more than happy to do that for you. And if you email it to me, I can just attach the file and send it, so I don't have to type your email in or look it up. Okay? More than happy to do that. Okay? mdverox082@gmail.com. And I'm going to obviously start. You have 50 of those. That's interesting. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So you got 50 different passwords. Of course you do. Are you using a password generator? Oh, okay. Okay. Phrases. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, or whatever that is. What other questions can I answer? Make sure you sign the attendance sheet if you did not on your way in. Okay. Oh, it's gone?
This is mine for the next class.
Oh, okay. Well, then don't sign the attendance sheet. Unless you're going to stay.
Only when you stop talking.
Somebody didn't sign it, let me know.
Okay, yeah, Steve's in the back. If you did not sign it, other than that, you got about 5 minutes till the next program. So that gives you, or 6 minutes. You got a chance to run down the hall real quick and that. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. You got my contact. Give me a holler if you got any questions.
Very good.
Thank you, online people. Appreciate it. Have a good day.